Hi friends, how are you doing? My name is Tammy Glenn and I am an ambassador with Plexus, and I am here today to share my story with all of you. Now, to begin with, my story starts when I was younger. When I was in kindergarten, I was really active, I was outside all the time, and I was just a happy little kid. Well, then one day a little boy called me a butterball, and honestly it stuck with me, and because of that one comment I started feeling very low about myself. I constantly thought I was fat, I didn't have any self-confidence, I didn't feel worthy, and that just kept building up over years and years. When I was in 3rd grade, I can remember making myself throw up for the first time after I ate food. And that is not okay. Not ever is it okay, but especially not at that young of an age. But you know, that's where I was at in my life. I was always anxious and worried, and that's where I was. And that continued on throughout middle school and high school as well. I never stopped being active. I was always active. And I loved, playing sports and doing things, but I just never had any self-confidence. When I came to Bryan College Station, I came here for college, and those behaviors continued. I was still active, but I was super, super anxious all the time. I can remember at one point in my life, just thinking, I can't go on living like this. I couldn't go to the grocery store. I couldn't even go outside of my house. I was so anxious about what would happen. I wouldn't go into any kind of social setting. I wouldn't eat out at a restaurant because I was always so fearful and so anxious about it that I was always scared I was going to be running to the restroom and being sick to my stomach. And so anyway, I can remember at one point in my life thinking, this is totally not normal. If this is how life is, I don't want to go on living. And that was one of my lowest points in my life. So me being a psychology major, I know that's not how people should be thinking. So I did what most Americans do, or most people do, is I went to the doctor, told them what was going on, and immediately got a prescription for anti-anxiety meds. And slowly those began to work. Well, I can remember that I was just happy all the time. Nothing seemed to faze me. I was just always happy. And you would think that was a good thing, but that's honestly not true. It's not good to be happy all the time. And let me give you an example of why. In 1 year's time, in less than 6 months' time, my husband's grandfather and father passed away. And y'all, I could not cry. I didn't feel really sadness. I just felt happy still. And that's totally not normal. You should feel sadness, especially at the loss of a loved one. But I really didn't. And I knew that it wasn't right, but I didn't know what to do about it. So honestly, I kept on taking that medication. I was living on 3 44-ounce Cokes a day and 3 venti ice Starbucks a day, just to get through the day. I was going through the drive-thru to get fast food as much as possible because I just didn't want to cook. And I was spending a lot of money on all those things, but again, you don't know what you don't know. But I still knew something wasn't right. I think one of the things that hit the nail on the head for me was in June of 2014. I went to my annual Well Woman's visit, and I was sitting on the exam table. You know what that's like, wearing just a little flimsy robe gown thingy. And lo and behold, the doctor, who barely knew me, basically said that I needed weight loss surgery. And it just really drove home with me. But again, I didn't want to do that. And so about that time, my friend Jill was posting on Facebook about this Plexus stuff. And so it kind of intrigued me, but I didn't just go ahead and say full force I'm going with Plexus and doing this. I would ask her a question, she'd answer me, and then I'd stalk her Facebook page again, and then I'd ask her another question, she'd answer, I'd stalk it some more, and that went on for a period of 6 months. By the time January rolled around, I knew I had to do something about my health. I was teaching, at that point, I was teaching 7 classes a week at our local gym, but I still couldn't lose weight. I was still having to depend on all the soda and all the coffee just to get me through the day. And I was so tired, even after all that, I was still going through those drive-thrus. So when January rolled around, Jill posted about Plexus having this free shipping. I'm like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm gonna get this free shipping. And back then shipping wasn't nearly as much as it is now. So I did it just to get the free shipping. Once my products got here, I knew I had found gold, and here's why. The first day I took that pink drink, I was still drinking. I was drinking my pink drink. I finished it. Well, then when I went and reached for that soda, y'all, I couldn't drink it. I had to spit it out. And I remember texting Jill and was like, oh my gosh, this stuff is amazing. So at that point, I was able to give up sodas. And it's funny because as I started feeling better, I gave up the sodas, I gave up the coffees, I gave up the junk food. I started having more energy. I wasn't dependent on the caffeine. I was just had a natural energy. In 6 months' time, I lost over 30 pounds. And at that point, my husband and I started talking, and we decided that we wanted to try for a baby. But to do that, I knew I couldn't be on the anxiety medication. So we discussed it, and we decided to see if this Plexus stuff would really help with my anxiety. And y'all, I got off my anxiety meds. I did it cold turkey. I just stopped taking them. Now, I'm not necessarily saying do that, but that's what I did. And I never had any repercussions from that. I was fine, and I did great. The anxiety did not come back. And so then in November, I got pregnant with our son, and I had an amazing pregnancy, no morning sickness, anything like that. It was actually a really easy pregnancy. And then I had him in July of 2016. Well, again, you don't know what you don't know. It was extremely, extremely hard being a first-time mom. And I was nursing, I didn't have any support and things like that. So I ended up becoming really inconsistent with my products. And if I can tell you anything, it's that, number one, the products work, but that you have to give it time and you have to be consistent. And because I was not being consistent, my anxiety came back. I started drinking sodas again. I started eating junk food again. And, you kind of get the picture. And that continued on for about 1.5 years until one summer, July of 2018, I saw a picture of myself in a bathing suit. And I just broke down and cried. I knew something had to give. Something had to change. And I was like, you know what? I should use these products that I have. I am worthy. I know they will benefit me. They've done it before, and I'm going to do it again. So I started the products again, like consistently. I never stopped taking them, but I just wasn't consistent with it, And so once I became consistent again, guess what? The caffeine addiction went away. The junk food addiction went away. The anxiety went away. That's one thing I tell people is it takes time and it takes consistency. So don't give up on yourself. And with that, I found this new passion for running, and I was super excited. I started with walking and then eventually jogging and then got into running. Well, in December of 2018, I saw all my friends walking away with this cool medal and cool jacket after running a half marathon, and I said, you know what? I'm going to do that. 2019, I'm going to be in that race, and I am going to do that. And you know what? I continued pushing myself. I continued working. And in December of 2019, I actually ran my first half marathon. And I'm like living proof that, you know, if anyone can do it, if I can do it, anyone can do it. You can change your life. And so at this point in my life, I'm not drinking sodas. I'm not drinking all that Starbucks caffeinated coffee stuff with loads of sugar. I'm not pulling through the drive-through. I'm active. I'm healthy. I don't have any anxiety. And I have my range of emotions back that I'm supposed to have. And so I'm super excited to say that right now I'm also training for another half marathon that will be done by the end of July, especially in this Texas heat. So if you can see, I'm probably sweating a little bit because I'm sitting in the car. That's why. So that's where I'm at today. And like I said before, number one, you have to give the products a chance to work. So that means you have to give it time. And number two, you have to be consistent with it. If you learned anything from me about what I was just talking about, you can see that by being consistent, I lost weight. You can see that when I became inconsistent, all those problems resurfaced, right? And I made sure I gave myself enough time to feel the difference, right? So I would like to conclude by saying the person you see in front of you is not the person that first started Plexus 5.5 years ago. The person that first started Plexus 5.5 years ago had low self-confidence, had no self-esteem, didn't think she was worthy, and she honestly was at least 263 pounds. And I'm going to say that again, 263 pounds, was considered morbidly obese, had no energy, was living on caffeine, was living on junk food. She just wasn't a great person. Then entered Plexus. Now you're looking at someone who is literally half of the person she once was. So that means if you take that 263 divided by 2, it'll tell you how much I weigh now. And I'm proud of that weight. I've worked hard to get there, but I've been consistent and had help through Plexus. I don't do the sodas anymore. I don't do all the Starbucks. I don't do the junk food. I am still off of anxiety meds. I'm happy. I'm healthy. Guys, I hope you have a great day, and thank you for taking the time to listen to my story.